A groom fakes a last-minute wedding cancellation due to lost fortune, then watches how his bride reacts. It was a perfect morning in Seaside Heights, California. The sun cast golden rays through the windows of the Rosemont estate where the grand wedding of Declan Avery and Camilla Reed was set to unfold. Declan, a charismatic 32-year-old tech entrepreneur with sharp cheekbones, olive-toned skin and hazel eyes, stood in front of the mirror in his dressing room. Clad in a crisp white shirt, black tuxedo pants, and bare feet, he looked the part of a groom, but his heart thudded with turmoil. Across the estate, Camilla, a 29-year-old art curator with flowing chestnut hair, porcelain skin, and sapphire blue eyes, sat with her bridesmaids in silk robes, laughing as her makeup was gently touched up. The air buzzed with joy, anticipation, and champagne bubbles. But in Declan's suite, joy gave way to doubt. For months, whispers had haunted him, not from Camilla herself but from society's cruel tales of gold-digging marriages and masked intentions. He needed to be sure. He couldn't marry without knowing truly if Camilla loved the man or the millionaire. And so, just hours before the vows, Declan made a call that would change everything. Declan's voice was calm but calculated as he spoke to his best friend Marcus, a sharp-witted lawyer and his best man. "I need you to deliver a message to Camilla. Tell her the wedding is off. Tell her I've lost everything." "What the hell are you talking about?" Marcus hissed, looking up from his tailored vest with wide brown eyes. "Is this cold feet or a test?" "It's a test," Declan admitted. "I need to know she's marrying me, not my balance sheet." Marcus stared at him, dumbfounded. "This is cruel." "Maybe," Declan said, eyes distant. "But if she leaves over this, I'll know it was never real." Camilla was still in her suite when Marcus arrived. Her laughter faded the moment she saw his face, pale and serious. He pulled her aside. "Declan's called off the wedding," he said carefully. "There's been a catastrophic business collapse. Everything's gone, the estate, the money, everything." Camilla blinked once, twice. Her painted lips parted, but no sound came. Then her expression turned unreadable. The bridesmaids gasped. The room erupted. But Camilla, she simply stood still, as if the world had suddenly stopped spinning. After the initial shock, Camilla shut the door to her bridal suite and asked everyone to leave her alone. The silk of her gown shimmered in the afternoon light as she stood at the full-length mirror trying to steady her breath. Her hands trembled, her heart pounded. It wasn't the lost fortune that cut deepest, it was the absence of Declan, the man who had promised her forever, the man who made her feel seen, loved, and safe. Money had never been the reason. In fact, she had fallen for him before she even knew his last name. She collapsed onto the tufted velvet bench and wept. In a box by the mirror sat her vows, written by hand the night before. She reached for them, her vision blurry, and read aloud in a whisper, "I choose you, in riches and ruin, in light and shadow, as long as I draw breath." Was that not enough? Across the estate, Declan watched from a hidden surveillance room, heart-torn. Her tears were real, her pain unmistakable. But still, doubt gnawed at him. What would she do next? Would she walk away, or would she fight for love? Camilla didn't rush to her phone. She didn't demand answers or chase Declan down. Instead, she sent a quiet message through Marcus. "I need to speak to him. Just once. Not about money. About us." The message was simple, but it struck Declan like a thunderbolt. He hadn't expected such calm, such grace. He had expected accusations, maybe even a dramatic exit. But this quiet dignity, it shook him. Still hidden, Declan declined the meeting. Not yet. He needed more. He needed to see how far she would go, or if she'd go at all. Camilla didn't leave the estate. Instead, she removed her bridal gown, put on a modest cream sweater, beige slacks, and ballet flats, tied her hair back, and wandered the garden. Alone. Vendors began packing up. Guests slowly trickled out, murmuring about what might have gone wrong. Camilla didn't explain. She only smiled faintly at them, apologized for the inconvenience, and thanked them for coming. She offered leftover flowers to the staff. She even tipped the wedding planner double. Declan watched from afar, stunned. Was this heartbreak, or was this a woman who loved selflessly? Marcus returned to Declan's side in the surveillance room later that evening, jaw clenched. "You saw enough, man. She's not what you feared." Declan's throat tightened. "I know." Marcus turned off the screen. "So what now? Are you going to tell her it was all a lie?" Declan ran a hand through his dark brown hair. "I want to. But how do you confess that your love came with a trap?" Meanwhile, Camilla returned to her apartment, a modest second-story loft filled with vintage books, plants, and framed photographs. Alone, she placed her wedding dress back in its garment bag and tucked it into the back of her closet. She didn't cry this time. She just stared at her phone, waiting for a call that never came. 3 days passed. No word from Declan, no news articles, no confirmation of the financial collapse. Then came the final blow. An anonymous tip from an insider revealed that Declan's company was stable, thriving in fact. There had been no collapse, no bankruptcy, no lost fortune. Camilla's breath hitched, her heartbreak sharpened. The man she loved had tested her love, and she had failed a test she never agreed to take. Marcus couldn't keep the secret any longer. Watching Camilla suffer in silence for days, knowing the whole ordeal had been a charade, weighed heavily on him. One evening he found her at her favorite cafe, a quiet corner shop called Penny's Brew, where she often retreated with her sketchbook and a cup of chamomile. She looked up, startled to see him. Her eyes were tired but kind. "Marcus," she said softly, "you don't have to keep checking on me. I'm okay." But Marcus sat down without a word and pushed a manila envelope across the table. Inside were screenshots, Declan's financials, recent board meetings, and an internal memo proving the company's stability. Camilla stared at the pages, then back at Marcus. So, it was a lie. Marcus looked down at his coffee. It was a test. He thought he needed to know if you loved him without the money. She flinched as if slapped. "He didn't trust me." "No," Marcus said. He doubted himself. Camilla folded the envelope and stood. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled. "Thank you, Marcus. But if he didn't know by now, I don't think he ever will." And with that she walked out, leaving Marcus unsure whether she was heartbroken or finally free. Declan couldn't sleep. For the fourth night in a row he tossed beneath silk sheets, haunted by Camilla's silence. He had expected a call, a confrontation, even anger. But the quiet crushed him. Marcus barged into his penthouse the next morning, furious. "You wanted the truth, you got it. And now you're about to lose her." Declan sat up, disheveled in a wrinkled gray shirt and sweatpants. "What did she say?" "She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just left." Marcus folded his arms. "You didn't test her love. You proved your fear." Declan stood, guilt flooding his features. "Where is she?" "She doesn't want to see you," Marcus said flatly. But that didn't stop Declan. He dressed quickly. Dark jeans, navy blazer, clean-shaven with tired eyes, and headed to Camilla's loft. When she opened the door and saw him standing there with regret written across his face, she didn't slam the door. She didn't speak. She just turned and walked back inside. It was worse than anger. It was indifference. Declan stepped in, removed his shoes, and said the only words that mattered, "I'm sorry." Camilla sat across from Declan in silence, arms crossed, legs tucked under her on the couch. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the distant honking of city traffic. Declan stared at the floor. "I thought I needed proof. Not of your love, but of my worth." Camilla's voice cracked the stillness. "And to get that, you humiliated me. You made me believe you lost everything, and then you vanished." He looked up. "I watched how you handled it. You were incredible." "That's not the point," she said, blinking back emotion. "I didn't need to prove anything, Declan. You already had my heart." Declan's voice wavered. "I was scared." She laughed bitterly. "You were a coward." He winced, nodding. "Yes, and I'm here now because I don't want to lose you forever." Camilla stared at him, this man she had once envisioned a life with, and finally asked, "Do you want to rebuild trust, or do you want forgiveness without effort?" Declan hesitated, then said, "I want to rebuild, brick by brick." And for the first time since the wedding day, she believed he might be telling the truth. They didn't reconcile overnight. In the weeks that followed, Declan tried to show up. Not as a billionaire groom, but as a flawed man seeking redemption. He brought her morning coffee. He walked her home from the gallery. He attended her art show anonymously, clapping the loudest when her work sold. Camilla, always poised in linen dresses and subtle jewelry, never let him close enough to presume, but never pushed him away either. She was rebuilding her boundaries, and Declan respected each one. Still, whispers floated through their circles. The wedding that never was. The lie that broke it. The couple trying to mend. Declan's board disapproved. "You're distracted," they said. "Focus on business," but he didn't care. For the first time in years, business wasn't his priority. Camilla was. One evening, after walking her home beneath a golden sunset, he turned and said, "I've donated the wedding funds to an art scholarship in your name." Camilla blinked, stunned. "Why? Because you loved me when I had nothing. Now I want to use something to do good." Her lips parted. Then, for the first time since that awful day, she kissed him. 3 months later, Camilla received a small envelope tied with a gold ribbon. No name, no card, just an address and a time. Curious, she arrived at a quaint garden tucked behind the city library. There, between climbing roses and fairy lights, stood Declan. No tuxedo, no guests, just him, in a simple white button-down, sleeves rolled, khakis, barefoot on the grass. He smiled. "No fortune, no show, just us." Camilla raised an eyebrow. "What is this?" He stepped closer. "A redo, not a proposal. Not yet, but a vow." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single handwritten card. "I vow to trust you, even when I doubt myself, to tell the truth, even when I'm afraid. To love you, not because you choose me, but because I choose you too." Camilla's breath caught. She stepped forward slowly, took the card, and whispered, "I needed to hear that." And for the first time since the wedding that wasn't, she smiled with her whole heart. The soft summer wind rustled the garden leaves as Camilla and Declan sat beneath a wooden arbor wrapped in fairy lights. The awkward silence that once defined their conversations had faded. In its place was something more honest, unfiltered, raw, and hopeful. Declan, now more reserved, spoke with less arrogance and more vulnerability. "I didn't realize how broken I was until I broke us," he admitted, his fingers gently grazing the hem of Camilla's sleeve. Camilla wore a flowing pale blue dress, her chestnut hair pinned loosely with a silver clip, her blue eyes steady. "I was willing to walk down that aisle with nothing more than your heart. You walked away with fear instead." He nodded. "I know, they didn't call it reconciliation. They didn't make promises, but something real bloomed in that garden. Not fireworks, not magic, just truth." Later that night, Camilla returned to her loft. Her wedding dress still hung in the back of her closet. This time she didn't cry when she saw it. She smiled. The damage hadn't destroyed her, it had reshaped her, and Declan too. What they had now wasn't perfect, but it was real. Word got out, not through tabloids but quiet posts and mutual friends. Camilla and Declan were talking again, spending time, and most controversially, maybe reconciling. Camilla's friends were split. Her best friend, Sadie, a fiercely independent interior designer, told her bluntly, "People don't test the ones they trust." Camilla agreed, "But people don't heal unless they're willing to try." Others were more supportive. Her colleague at the gallery, Jonah, smiled knowingly. "The man made a mistake, big one, but if you love him and he's changed, don't let pride stop something beautiful." Declan's circle was less understanding. Investors and board members warned him to distance himself. "Public sympathy favors clean slates, not messy forgiveness," they said. But Declan pushed back. "This isn't about image, this is about making things right." He even offered to resign from his company, but Camilla stopped him. "That's not what I want. I want you to grow, not run." In the face of judgment, the two quietly redefined their relationship. No titles, no deadlines, just two people slowly rediscovering trust and letting go of what others thought they should be. Camilla poured her pain into her art. Her latest exhibition, Beneath the Surface, featured textured paintings that explored truth, betrayal, and renewal. Each canvas told a story, not of heartbreak, but of what came after. The slow, aching journey toward understanding. Declan stood at the back of the gallery opening night, dressed in a black sweater and slacks, his hazel eyes soft with emotion. Camilla, in an elegant cream blouse and slate skirt, greeted guests but kept glancing at him. One painting in particular captured everyone's attention. A silhouette standing in the rain, a wedding bouquet floating in a puddle. A woman nearby whispered, "That's about her ex, right?" Camilla stepped forward. "Actually, it's about a man who didn't know he was loved until it was almost too late." Later, when the gallery cleared, Declan approached her. "That one hurt," he said, gesturing to the painting. "It was meant to," Camilla replied. He smiled. "Thank you for letting me feel it." She touched his hand briefly. "Thank you for showing up." And in that moment they realized they weren't walking backward into what was, but forward into something entirely new. One misty Sunday morning, Camilla invited Declan to her family's lake cottage. It was the place she'd retreated to as a child, where she learned to fish and paint and trust the silence. They sat on the dock, feet dangling over the still water. Declan, dressed in a faded hoodie and jeans, looked out over the lake. "I used to think love had to be grand, impressive, the proposal, the wedding, the house." Camilla sipped her tea. "And now, I think love is in the quiet." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his coat pocket and handed it to her. Camilla opened it slowly. Inside were words written in his uneven scrawl. "Will you not marry me today, but maybe someday when it's right? Until then, will you let me love you without pretending, without pride?" Camilla laughed through tears. She folded the note and tucked it into her sweater. "Yes," she said softly. "No ring," she teased. He smirked. "No ring, not yet, but a promise." And for them in that moment it was more than enough. Months passed, no tuxedos, no gowns, just memories, laughter, and healing. Camilla and Declan created their own ceremony, a private ritual on the anniversary of their almost wedding, not to celebrate what didn't happen but what did. They stood barefoot in the same Rosemont garden where the wedding was meant to be, now repurposed as a public art garden thanks to Camilla's initiative and Declan's donation. He wore a white linen shirt. She wore a simple floral dress. There were no guests, no cake, no camera crew. They held hands beneath the arbor and read new vows, quiet, honest promises not to be perfect, but to be better. "I vow not to test your love," Declan whispered, "but to trust it." Camilla replied, "I vow not to run from hurt, but to walk through it with you." Then they danced, no music, just the wind in the leaves and the echo of new beginnings. There was no officiant, no legal contract, but it was the most real wedding either of them could have imagined. Life after the almost wedding was not a fairy tale. It was quiet growth, hard conversations, laughter tucked between awkward silences, therapy sessions, both joint and solo, moments where Camilla almost walked away, moments where Declan almost let her. But they didn't. Camilla, now teaching art therapy workshops, used her story not as gossip, but as an example of boundaries, healing, and the weight of emotional risk. Forgiveness, she often told her students, doesn't mean forgetting, it means remembering without the rage. Declan focused on mental health initiatives within his company, confessing publicly in a keynote address that power doesn't make you invincible, it often makes you insecure. Their story became known, not because of wealth or drama, but because it felt real, messy, human. Some judged them, others admired them, but neither cared anymore. They had found peace in a kind of love that didn't always look like roses and rings. Sometimes it looked like standing in the kitchen at midnight sharing soup in silence. One rainy afternoon, Camilla sat in her loft, now decorated with warm bookshelves, earthy tones, and framed paintings from her students. She pulled out an old notebook, the one she had used to write her original wedding vows. Flipping to the last blank page, she began writing, "Dear Camilla, on the morning of the wedding, you are brave. You will hurt, you will cry, you will think everything has ended. But what ends is not love, it's illusion. You will lose the wedding, but find yourself. You'll discover that real love isn't about big gestures, but quiet consistency. And when you're ready, love will return, not to save you, but to stand beside you. So hold your head high, you are more than chosen, you are choosing. Future you." She tucked the letter into the pages of the old vows and smiled. The dress still hung in the closet untouched, but the woman who once wore it was gone, and someone stronger had taken her place. On a walk through the art garden one breezy afternoon, Declan paused beneath a willow tree and pulled a small box from his pocket. He didn't get on one knee. He didn't make a speech. He simply opened the box to reveal a delicate silver band, modest, no diamonds, just an engraved inscription inside. "Still choosing you." Camilla raised an eyebrow. "You know I don't need this." "I know," he replied, "but I needed to give it, not to win you. Just to honor what we've built." She took the ring and turned it in her fingers, reading the engraving twice before sliding it onto her hand. There was no applause, no violins, no photographer, just the rustle of trees and the knowing look of two people who had earned each other's hearts the hard way. A year after their broken wedding, they sent invitations, not for a wedding but a celebration. A garden brunch, surrounded by art, music, and poetry. The theme, the beauty of broken things. Friends, family, and former critics gathered beneath blooming wisteria to witness something better than vows, a couple who had survived themselves. Camilla spoke first, in a flowing coral dress with her hair in soft waves. "We were never broken, just unfinished." Declan followed, in a gray shirt and beige slacks, still a little awkward, but finally comfortable in his own skin. "I didn't need to lose everything to find what mattered. I just needed to stop hiding behind it." Guests clapped. Sadie cried. Marcus raised his glass with a proud grin. And together, Camilla and Declan toasted not a marriage, but a journey of trust, forgiveness, and learning how to love without fear. That night, beneath a canopy of lights, Camilla and Declan danced again. Not the first dance of a bride and groom, but a private sway of two souls who had faced the storm and found their way back. They didn't need titles or traditions. They had something better, a partnership built not on tests but truths. As the final lights dimmed and guests began to leave, a friend asked, "Do you ever wish it had gone differently?" Camilla smiled, holding Declan's hand. "No, because this way I know it's real." And as they walked home hand in hand beneath the stars, their story wasn't one of a ruined wedding. It was the story of a love brave enough to begin again. If you found this story moving, inspiring, or just beautifully human, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There are more heart-tugging tales, unforgettable characters, and emotional journeys waiting for you. Let love, honesty, and second chances fill your screen, one story at a time.